Hey everyone, welcome to the 5th regional dungeon of the game, the Sand Temple, otherwise known as the Desert Temple. This large room looks a little overwhelming at first, but it's actually pretty simple, and there's only one direction we can go at the moment anyway, which is to the far right. You want to follow this narrow path, dodging the boulders, but be warned of that alcove on the left, because it's actually a trap. You can't actually rest there, don't step on it. We're going to need some arrows for the next puzzle, and most likely you already have plenty already, but just in case, you can use the boomerang on the nearby glass acorn across the way to get more. Just make sure you release the stylus to use the boomerang when there's a gap between the boulders, otherwise you'll hit the boulder and it won't work. Now these boulders here are pretty tight together. We're trying to hit the eye switch across the way. It's not that hard, but if you really are having a difficult time with this, you may want to move a little bit to the right, maybe a little easier so that you're aiming at more of an angle, so you're matching the angle of the boulders, and then that way you have more total space that you could, more fudge room, and just in case. So these Stalfos are standing pretty close together, so a well-placed bomb could take out all three at once. Otherwise, a good tactic is to simply stand far away and use your bow. I generally try not to use that many arrows in one fight because it's just kind of a mental thing. I like to have a lot just in case, so I don't like to use them all up. But anyway, we have that glass acorn outside, so we can totally restock after this, so feel free to just use your arrows like crazy. There's a total of 6 Stalfos in this room, but we only fight 3 of them at a time, and this is because when we fought even 4 of them back in the Fire Temple, the DS would actually lag, and so here, it doesn't seem strange for them to rise out of the floor because it's sand, but anyway, I always think it's kind of cool to see game developers finding clever ways to work within the limitations of their hardware. Once you grab the small key, then return to the main part of the room, and there is a locked door that leads to some stairs, so we want to take those stairs up a floor. These spiky log things here were in Phantom Hourglass as well, although they looked a little bit different in that one. You can walk on top of it, but be careful not to touch the sides, which will poke you. We have a new enemy here as well called a Garoon, but we can't actually do anything with them yet. All of our items are ineffective against them. So I'm going to skip them from now and round the corner, and here we have more of those log things rolling around. That's amazing how they do that. They're like square, and somehow they're rolling around. But the 2 on the right are further spaced, so we want to follow them and then sneak between them to access the stairs. These Stalfos warriors will charge towards you as soon as you get close, and as long as you run pretty straight, you should be able to avoid them, assuming you don't pick up treasure, which will slow you down. Apparently that one sacrificed its skull to aid its friends in defeating me. You can kill them with your sword, but don't do that if there's more than one at a time. I recommend taking out most of them with either bombs or arrows until you kind of narrow them down, and then you can finish out the last one with your sword. Okay, yeah, best item in Spirit Tracks. I'm just saying, I really like this thing. It almost makes me think that it's kind of like a replacement for the shovel from Phantom Hourglass, since you can use it on the sand, and sometimes it makes items pop out of the sand, so I think it's kind of replacing the dig function of the shovel. And it's definitely a lot cooler than the shovel was, but anyways, it also makes me happy that we get it pretty early on in the dungeon, so we have all kinds of sand puzzles to play with. You want to hold down the L or R button to use it, and then tap on the sand to raise the sand level. You can also just drag the stylus around to draw a big old path. The sand is only temporary, it disappears pretty quickly, so there's a barrier blocking the door back to the stairs. We're going to have to find our own way out. Want to use the wand to lift yourself up and walk over the platform on the left. So you can sneak back through here if you like, but there's also some treasure we can get now. Remember that you can stand on top of these spiky log things, just not while they're moving, obviously. You want to use the sand wand to stop them in their tracks, and then raise yourself up so that you can walk on top of them. Be careful not to touch the sides, and remember to refresh your sand before it disappears. As we return to this room, we're locked in with the two Garoons, these sand monsters that we couldn't defeat with any of our regular items, but even a quick tap with the sand wand renders them helpless. They panic as soon as you touch them with it, but don't worry, even if they touch you at this point, they won't actually hurt you at all. You want to chase them down and then keep using your sand wand on them until they turn solid. I'm not really sure what that even means. Like, are we turning them into, like, dried mud? Is it heating them up or turning them into glass or something? But either way, they're now vulnerable to the rest of your items, so you can hit them with your sword or even pick them up and toss them on the ground. This is pretty awesome. Do this 3 times to defeat them. There's a shortcut here to return to the other side of the room, though I'm not really sure why you would want to, unless you, like, forgot some treasure or something, but when you're done playing around here, you want to make a wall of sand to stop the log, then walk across it to return to the stairs leading down to the main room. So back in the main room at long last, first you want to go to the left side of the room, which eventually leads to a clue about what to do on the right side of the room. The entire left side is technically optional if you know what to do, it's all to get information. So if you already know what to do, you can skip ahead to in the video where I go to the right side, you can skip this left side entirely. However, there are some pretty sweet puzzles along the way, and there's some treasure and stuff as well, so I encourage you to do the left side anyway. It's fun. It's part of the experience. It's awesome. There's these big cylinder stone things that are in the way, and they can be rolled around by raising the sand on each side. Just be careful not to get yourself squished, though, because they are kind of heavy. You want to stand out of the way and roll them off the ledges on the far left. Now do this to do the other one as well, and once they're out of the way, you can get on top of the nearby platform and use the logs to get to the far left. The only thing of note over here is that you can stock up on arrows, and there's also a gossip stone that will tell you of any hidden chests on this floor. Want to go back south and go back across the logs, and if you have a hard time with those, you can hop down and raise the sand to get back to the right side of the platform instead. Once there, circle around and go down the stairs. These eye switches will only stay activated for a few seconds, and in order to reach the higher ones, we're going to have to stand on raised sand. I recommend you do the high ones first, rather than switching items while you're in a hurry, you know? The sand only takes a second to disappear anyway. This corridor is blocked off by another one of those rolling pillars. To get by, we're going to have to move it around, so stand in the alcove on the right and move the stone thingy. That is the technical term, by the way, stone thingy. To the far north, you'll find a platform on the left that is slightly shorter, allowing us to get on top of it. Go to the far south and roll the stone block back to the north to use it as a bridge. Cross to the other side, then move it to the south again and cross over there. 2 more Garoons, really easy. You want to solidify them with the sand wand, then use the wand to access the small area in the corner where there's a clue on the wall about what to do next. This is what we came for, so really the whole left side was just to get some optional information. You could probably find the small key on your own, especially if you knew the clue. Between 1 and 3, you'll find the key. Okay, I reworded that slightly, but it sounds more awesome that way, and with a deeper voice. Mark your map of where the 3 eye switches are, and if you remember where the single eye switch was, it's in the top right corner of the map. Mark that too, and draw a line between them, and in the center is where we'll find the small key, which just so happens to be on a chunk of sand that we haven't visited yet. Want to work your way all the way back to the main part of the room, then return to the boulders on the right side. These boulders are now much closer together, so we'll be unable to zigzag between them like we did before. Use the nearby sand to reach the upper ledge, go as far north as you can, then wait for a good chance to hop down and make a run for it. This part can be pretty tricky. Sometimes I have no trouble with it at all, and other times I just get knocked down by the boulders over and over again, and it's super frustrating. So if you're experiencing that, believe me when I say that I feel your pain. I know exactly what you're talking about. Just like before, we need to shoot this eye switch to open the door and remove the barrier, but there's these boulders blocking the way, and they're no longer rolling, but instead they're just sitting there, so they can't be pushed aside using the sand wand so that you can access the eye switch. So we have a new enemy in this room called an Ergtarok, kind of like an Octorok, I guess, but with a less logical name, because Octoroks is octopus plus rock. They're actually just a sand-dwelling version of the octaves that we've faced before, and they shoot spiky balls at you the same way, but they will dive back into the sand before you can use any of your regular items on them or effect their attacks. So to defeat them, you need to wait until they're sifting under the sand, then quickly use the sand wand to raise them above the ground, and raise yourself up as well and go slash away at them before the sand disappears. So as I explained earlier, the clue to finding the small key was to search the place between the single eye switch, which is in the top right corner of the map, and the 3 eye switches, which is on the left middle of the map. And the area directly between them is in the sand here on our left, and this is where you'll find the key. I actually think this puzzle is a little bit confusing. I mean, it makes sense, but man, the first time I played this game, I was stuck here for so long. I actually figured out the puzzle pretty quick, but then I sandified this whole area, and I must have, just missed the one block where the key is because I did not find the key. And then I came back here repeatedly and did it again, and still no key. I don't know how that's possible, but I eventually found it. That was, of course, after I explored, every inch of the 3 floors over and over again. And at that point, I was a little bit angry. I finally came back here, found the key, and was like, you gotta be kidding me. You know what I mean? It was awful. Before moving on, you want to use the sand in the southern part of this room to get on top of the platforms here and find a treasure chest. After that, hop back down and we have a cracked wall that can't be broken with bombs. That can't be right. This is Zelda. Everything I know about the universe is suddenly wrong. Instead, you want to use the sand wand to move the boulder on top of this hammer platform thingy. There was something similar to this in Phantom Hourglass, but those were more like catapults, while this is more like a pool cue or something. Anyway, go down the stairs, and here we have quicksand. Obviously, you don't want to fall in, but you can raise the sand level just like usual, which is solid. That's good, so go across and use the small key that we got just a moment ago to open the locked door. This puzzle should be pretty easy to figure out, but I can also see how some people could be totally at a loss of what to do because they never actually explain that you can pick the Garuins up. I assume that most people tap on enemies to defeat them because it's faster and easier typically, but there's always a chance that there's someone out there that only uses stylus swipes to defeat enemies, so they're slashing rather than stabbing, so they wouldn't even know at this point that they're capable of picking these guys up and placing them. Now, you don't actually have to kill them here, I just think it's abrupt and humorous. Boom! The door closes. Ha 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 ha. It makes me laugh. Now at this point, you can go left real quick to find a stamp station for this temple. Remember to refresh the stand you're currently standing on, otherwise it could disappear beneath you. At this corner, make sure you have a full path all the way around because you'll be vulnerable to the arrows while you're using the wand. It is possible to use quick bursts and go through there steadily, but it's difficult. These blocks are really confusing at first. The trick that I found to get them to face down is get them so they're in the same column or row, pointing down that is, and then all you have to do is flip them on their side, roll it, and then it'll be all lined up and you can just set it in place. Obviously, that is not required, I just think it's funny. The switch here extends a bridge to the south, but only while you're standing on it. Use the sand to stop the nearby boulder, then place it on top of the mechanism to the north, and if you activate it right now, then it'll fall into the abyss. So what we need to do is stand on the floor switch to create the bridge, and then shoot the crystal switch to destroy the barrier. Unfortunately, as soon as we step off the switch, the bridge disappears. You want to grab another boulder and place it on top of the switch. If you accidentally move the boulder too far south, though, like I did here, you'll have to get rid of it and try again. This puzzle has multiple colored slots that you can use, and if you look to the north, you'll see that the red circles lead to the boss door. We can't do much with that until we have the boss key anyway, so instead we're going to have to work our way towards the blue diamonds. Before tackling the puzzle, though, you should use the nearby floor switch to create a shortcut. So again, my trick for completing these puzzles is to get the correct shape to pierce the ground in a compass direction of the slot I'm trying to get it in. Once I have it lined up where I want, all I have to do is knock it onto its side and then roll it until it's in the right spot, and then I can just push it into place. I wasn't really the most efficient in this particular recording, but you get the general idea. Pretty obvious, but you need to stand in the little alcove to the south here to get past this rolling log. After that, run in and defeat the 2 Stalfos warriors to make a chest appear. For this puzzle, we need to get on top of this platform to the south to lower the barrier to the north. We'll have to walk on the logs though to make this work, and it can be kind of tricky to do it without touching the sides of the logs and getting hurt. Initially you want to keep the other one away from you so you can climb on top of the other, but afterwards you can reach the doorway, you can either hop down and separate the logs again, or you can walk on both of them at the same time like I do in this recording. One interesting thing to note about these Karaks is that a single spin attack will kill them once you get close enough. This way you can defeat them quickly without having to worry about chasing them down a second time in case you didn't get to them fast enough. I'm floating in midair! Alright, so set down the bosque, and now we have to open the red barrier. Now here's a little trick for any of you who are having trouble with this. One way you can solve this that's actually really simple there, you don't really even have to think that hard to do it, is if you can get the correct shape to be pointing down into the sand, but it's anywhere near the slot. So in this case I had my red circle and it was diagonal to where I needed it to go. All you have to do is spin the block either clockwise or counterclockwise. So go like, left, down, right, up, left, down, right, up, left, down, right, up, and just keep doing it over and over again. You can go vice versa, whichever direction you want to go, as long as one of those directions takes you to the slot. As you just keep doing that over and over and over again, eventually it will snap into place. It'll make sense if you actually watch the movements of the blocks why that works, but yeah, that's all you have to do, is just keep spinning it over and over again. Alright, so all that's left to do is bring the bosque across the quicksand, and the only other thing that I haven't done yet is that there's a treasure chest on the right, just to the right, that I completely forgot about. I was intending on getting it earlier, but I remembered it at the last moment while I was tossing the bosque, and I was like, oh, I need to go get that. So make sure you grab that before you leave. Alright, so break the jars if you need to, then talk with the stone tablet to get a portal back to the beginning if you need to, and then go up the stairs and join me for the next video where I will show you how to defeat the boss.